גבירותיי ורבותיי, קבלו בבקשה את מנהל אמזון ווב סרוויסס ישראל, הראל יפר.
שומעים אותי, בוקר טוב, ברוכים הבאים. תענוג להיות פה, נהדר לראות את כולכם היום. שמי הראל יפר ואני מנהל את אמזון ווב סרוויסס. שמח מאוד שבאתם להיות כאן היום איתנו. אז מה יש לנו פה היום? מעל ל3,000 אישה ואיש שהגיעו להיות איתנו היום. יהיו פה היום 25 סשנים טכניים, ויש לנו 31 שותפים שנמצאים פה, ואותם תפגשו במהלך היום. אספר לכם קצת על המבנה של היום. במקום שאנחנו נמצאים כרגע, בביתן 10, מתקיים הקינוט הזה. יהיו גם ה-breakout sessions שמיד אדבר עליהם. גם ה-hands-on lab נמצא פה. בביתן אחד שבו בוצעה הרשמה ושם פתחנו את היום, תערוכת השותפים נמצאת, הצוות של AWS נמצא ושם גם יוגשו ארוחת הצהריים. אז במהלך היום ננוע כולנו בין שני המקומות האלה. אספר לכם קצת על הטרקים היום. קודם כל את האג'נדה של היום אנחנו בנינו על סמך פידבקים שאתם נתתם לנו. אתם סיפרתם לנו מהם הנושאים שמעניינים אתכם, באיזה תחומים הייתם רוצים שנתמקד, וככה בנינו את האג'נדה שלנו היום. אז האג'נדה מורכבת מ5 טרקים שכל אחד מהם מתמחה בנושא אחד. נושא ראשון הוא Analyze, נדבר על פתרונות שעוזרים לנתח מידע, איך מקבלים את המידע, איך מנתחים אותו ואיך מוציאים ממנו תובנות. הנושא השני זה נושא חדשנות, איתכם בפעם הראשונה בסאמיט של AWS נבנה לייב בשידור חי אפליקציה. כל מי שרוצה להבין, ללמוד איך עושים חדשנות ב-AWS, זה הטרק עבורו. הטרק השלישי הוא אוטומייט, כל עולם הדב-אופס, מי שעולם הדב-אופס קרוב לליבו ורוצה לשמוע על כלים, זה הטרק עבורו. טרק נוסף זה טרק Artificial Intelligence, אחד הנושאים החמים, אחת הטכנולוגיות הלוהטות, זה המקום ללמוד. והאחרון, הטרק החמישי הוא טרק שאנחנו קוראים לו סטארט, לאלו שמתחילים, לאלו שעושים את צעדיהם הראשונים בענן, זה המקום לבוא וללמוד ולשמוע איך נכון לעשות את זה. כל הטרקים יתחילו פה מיד אחר הצהריים, וגם לוחות הזמנים מאפשרים לעבור בין הטרקים השונים, כך שתרגישו נוח לעבור בין טרק לטרק בהתאם לנושאים שמעניינים אתכם. חשוב לנו מאוד לדבר איתכם, לשמוע מכם, תנו לנו פידבק, תשאלו שאלות, הדיאלוג בינינו לביניכם הוא נורא חשוב לנו, איך תזהו אותנו? האנשים עם החולצות האפורות, כמוני למשל, הם אנשים שהם יותר עם אוריינטציה עסקית, בעלי החולצות האפורות הם אנשים שהם יותר טכניים, טכנולוגיים, תרגישו מאוד בנוח לגשת לכולנו ולשאול שאלה, איש בתחום העניין שלו. חשוב לי להסב את תשומת לבכם לכך שיש לנו מעבדה פה, שיש בה כ-90 עמדות, שב-90 העמדות האלה אתם מוזמנים לבוא, לעשות שימוש בשירותי אמזון ווב סרוויסס, כולל באפליקציות שלכם, אפשר ורצוי ומומלץ להפעיל אותם שם. חוץ מ-90 עמדות, יש מומחים שלנו ואנשי הדרכה שיהיו שם לענות לשאלות, שיהיו שם כדי לעזור לכם. אז בנוסף למצגות, אנחנו מאוד מעודדים אתכם לבוא ולנסות את זה בידיכם. חשוב לי שתדעו שאנחנו מתרחבים בישראל, גם אמזון ווב סרוויסס וגם אמזון.קום, ואנחנו מגייסים. אז אם אתם מכירים אנשים מוכשרים שמעוניינים, שמתעניינים בלהצטרף אלינו, אני מעודד אתכם לבוא לעמדת הטלנט אקוויזישן שלנו שנמצאת כמובן בביתן אחד. נשמח שם לתת יותר פרטים לגבי המשרות הפנויות אצלנו. אם אתם מכירים אנשים שזה מעניין אותם, בהחלט מומלץ וכדאי לבוא ולשמוע. אני רוצה להגיד תודה רבה לשותפים שלנו שבזכותם בעצם אנחנו יכולים לעשות את היום הזה. שותפי הפלטינום שלנו, חברת All Cloud, Cloud Zone, Redis Labs ו-Do It. המון תודה לכם שותפי הפלטינום שלנו. שותפי הגולד, GitHub, NetApp ו-VMware, גם כן נמצאים באזור השותפים שלנו בביתן אחד. המון תודה לשותפי הסילבר שלנו, גם להם יש הרבה ידע, הרבה ניסיון, אני מעודד אתכם לבוא, לדבר איתם, להתייעץ, הם פה לשירותכם, לדבר איתכם. שותפי הברונזה שלנו, גם כן, הרבה ניסיון שעומד לרשותכם, ואני מעודד אתכם להשתמש בו, וגם לשותף ההדרכה שלנו, חברת ג'ון ברייס. כולם נמצאים פה, כולם נמצאים באזור השותפים, הזדמנות נהדרת עבורכם, עבורנו לדבר. במהלך היום-יום, הצוות של AWS ואני פוגשים הרבה לקוחות, אלה דוגמאות כמובן, לא יכולנו להרחיב יותר מזה, הרבה ארגונים, בין אם זה סטארט-אפים, בין אם זה אנטרפרייזס, בין אם זה ארגונים בסדר גודל בינוני, שעושים חדשנות על AWS. אנחנו עוזרים לארגונים לעשות חדשנות על AWS. על זה נדבר במהלך היום, על זה נחליף מידע, וזה חלק מהמהות של הסאמיט שאנחנו מבצעים היום בתל אביב. עברה שנה מאז הסאמיט הקודם, זה היה ביוני בשנה שעברה, היינו פה באולם הזה, לא היו 3,000 איש, היו פחות, אנחנו גדלים משנה לשנה וזה מרגש, ואני רוצה לנצל את ההזדמנות הזאת לתת לכם עדכון קצר מבחינה עסקית על ההתקדמות של Amazon Web Services ואיך זה נראה מבחינת revenues. אז אנחנו, בהתבסס על התוצאות הרבעוניות האחרונות, אנחנו כבר ביזנס שהוא בקצב של 14 מיליארד דולר, זה קצב גידול גדול, ואתם גם יכולים לראות את אחוזי הגידול, year over year, זה קצב גידול של 43%. אני בטוח שאתם תסכימו אותי שאלה מספרים גדולים ומאוד מאוד מרשימים. אם אני ככה שם בטבלה אחת את חברות ה-IT הגדולות, בסדרי גודל של מיליארד דולר, ואת קצב הגידול שלהם, year over year, אתם יכולים לראות את השמות לפניכם, והמספר המרשים הזה, האחוז הגידול המרשים הזה, זה במיוחד בזכות מיליוני לקוחות, בזכותכם, שמדי חודש עושים שימוש בתשתיות של AWS, שאתם מריצים את האפליקציות שלכם אצלנו, שאתם בוטחים בנו, ואנחנו מאוד מאוד מודים לכם על כך. קצת נדבר על משתמשים, מי הם המשתמשים של AWS, זה התחיל כמובן עם סטארט-אפים. סטארט-אפים היו ראשונים שזיהו איך הענן עוזר להם לגדול מהר, לצמוח, לפרוץ לשווקים עולמיים ולהתמקד בקור שלהם. אז בשורה העליונה אתם רואים חלק מהשמות של לקוחותינו הישראלים, אבל יש פה גם סטארט-אפים גדולים מאוד ומוצלחים בעולם, ספוטיפיי פה ועוד רבים וטובים אחרים. הסטארט-אפים היו ראשונים שזיהו והשתמשו ונהנו מהענן. אחריהם הגיעו האנטרפרייזס, גם האנטרפרייזס הבינו שהענן עוזר להם להתמקד בחדשנות ולהיות הרבה יותר מהירים ויעילים ותחרותיים. ונייס נמצאים פה ברשימה, חברת יס, בנק הפועלים, אבל גם ארגונים גלובליים גדולים כמו ג'נרל אלקטריק, כמו פרייזר, פרום קפיטל 1, ארגוני אנטרפרייז גדולים ומסורתיים עושים שימוש בענן. אבל זה לא נעצר באנטרפרייזס, זה גם מגיע ללקוחות פאבליק סקטור. גם לקוחות ממשלתיים עושים שימוש בענן. בשנה שעברה על הבמה הזאת היו משרד הבריאות וסיפרו איך הענן של AWS עוזר למשרד הבריאות לשפר את הבריאות של התושבים במדינת ישראל. ארגונים כמו נאס"א, כמו ה-CIA עושים שימוש בענן. אי אפשר שלא לדבר על ISVs. ISVs, כל מי שמפעיל מערכת תוכנה יודע שהרבה פעמים עושים שימוש ב-ISVs. לכן פורטפוליו שותפי ה-ISV שעושים שימוש בענן, ולמעשה הגרסה הראשונה שלהם בדרך כלל היא על AWS, הרשימה היא רחבה וחשוב וטוב לדעת מי הם ולעשות בהם שימוש עבור הארגון שלכם. אני גם אציין את המרקט פלייס של Amazon Web Services. המרקט פלייס שלנו מאפשר לארגונים בצורה מאוד מאוד מהירה למצוא, לזהות, לרכוש ולהפעיל אפליקציות דרך המרקט פלייס שלנו. היתרון של זה הוא עבור הקונים בצורה מאוד קלה, בתוך הקונסול שלנו אתה מזהה את האפליקציה שאתה צריך, אבל לא רק למשתמשים, גם למוכרים. כל מי שיש לו אפליקציה שהוא רוצה להגיע לשווקים הגלובליים, המרקט פלייס עוזר לו להגיע לשווקים הגלובליים האלה, לכן חשוב שתדעו וחשוב שתעשו שימוש ביכולת הזאת. ברשותכם אני אעבור לאנגלית כדי להזמין את האורח הבא שלנו. We are very delighted to have with us here in Tel Aviv, and not for the first time, Adrian Cockcroft. He is the Vice President for Cloud Architecture Strategy at Amazon Web Services. Before joining Amazon Web Services, Adrian was the head architect, chief architect of a company called Netflix. I'm sure that everybody in this room knows who Netflix is and what Netflix is doing. Later he joined Battery Ventures. It's his third visit to Israel. Thank you so much, Adrian, for coming to being here with us here. Welcome to stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Well, it's great to be back here in Israel and in Tel Aviv. I've been giving summit keynotes around the world, and every summit is a little different. The audience is different. In some of them, they tell me, these are all managers, don't get too technical. In others, they say, these are all new customers. You know, treat everyone like a beginner. They don't really know what is going on AWS. We have to start from scratch. But for Tel Aviv, they said, they already know this stuff. They want technical content, and it's very much startup oriented. So I'm going to go through and go through this deck today, and I'm going to try and call out the things that I think are relevant to startups and a bit more technical detail than usual. So hopefully you enjoy this. So in 2014, I left Netflix and joined Battery Ventures just at a time when cloud was becoming the new normal. This is when enterprises really started going, yes, we're really going to do this. We started piling into it. And one of the reasons that I joined Battery Ventures was to go and talk to all of these enterprises and figure out how they were going to migrate to cloud, what techniques they were going to use, what products they were going to use, and what startups they were going to use to build out their technology base. In 2015, we moved on a little bit, and AWS was really focused on how do you control your own destiny, where do you go, the kind of freedom that we gave you to move to cloud. And then, right now, this is the real power we're giving you. We're giving you superpowers. One of the superpowers we get is, for a relatively small country like Israel, you can start a company that's global in scope. We'll be talking later to some customers. We'll be bringing them on stage. Many of these customers have truly global businesses which are based out of Israel. So there's a huge opportunity, and we're giving you superpowers that let you take on the world and become successful, and give you a platform where you don't need to hire people everywhere around the world and build out data centers everywhere around the world, and the capabilities that we put on top of that. So the first superpower we're going to talk about is supersonic speed. It no longer is acceptable to file a ticket and wait for a few weeks or a few months just to get a machine. Machines should be available, thousands of machines should be available in a few minutes just by making an API call. So that's really the core of where we are today. And that's one of the main reasons people move to cloud. But it's not just the ability to get infrastructure quickly. There's all of the services and the capabilities that we release over time. So if you look at the pace at which AWS is releasing new capabilities, we're now releasing several new things every day. You have to just keep reading Jeff Barr's blogs and watching the Twitter feeds. You know, what 3 or 4 things did we release today? It's an incredible pace. And as AWS has got bigger, we've been releasing more and more. So when you think about, you know, where we are and what we're giving you amazing abilities that you can build upon. And you can build, you can go, you're standing on the shoulders of the tallest giant, and we're the fastest growing giant in many dimensions. So it's not just the largest number of customers, as was mentioned just now, it's the largest number of features to build on. So you can build your business much more quickly because you have all these capabilities. So let's take a look at it. This is an eye chart. There's quite a lot of stuff on here. I'm just going to pick out a few things that I think are relevant to startups in particular. Along the top, we have all the different services. And one of them here is optimization guidance. So the way I think about it, when you're a seed stage startup, you're just beginning, your bill for coffee is probably bigger than your bill for AWS, right? If you're spending more on coffee than you are on AWS, you don't really care about your AWS bill. You just want to use AWS to go as fast as possible, to try out your business model, and to just get things done, to get established. There's a point at which your AWS bill gets to be roughly about as much as the cost of hiring another developer. You know, if you think about your burn rate, if you're a startup, it's driven by how many developers can I hire is really what you care about. When you get to that kind of level, call us up, Our optimization services will come and will help you, and we'll be able to shrink your bill so you can hire another developer. Before that point, it's kind of not really worth worrying about, but there's a point at which I see most startups really starting to pay attention to how much they're spending. What we find is that the more money we save you, the faster you get bigger, the more successful you are. We want you to be successful because we know that we'd much rather have a bigger, successful business in the future than to try and make a few more dollars out of you today. That's a very different approach than most enterprise and most IT providers. We just see this. Every time we cut the cost of doing business on AWS, the market gets bigger. And that is an incredibly powerful engine for driving our growth and for making you successful. Let's see, what else have we got on here? The marketplace. As was just mentioned, there's a lot of services in the marketplace. If you're a startup, you should really figure out, we don't just have AMIs and machine images in the startup, in the marketplace. We also have SaaS-based products. So most of the time what you're building, if you can figure out how to get it into the marketplace, that marketplace is looked at every day by buyers in enterprises globally. It's an incredible shop window that you can leverage to get your solution known about alongside all the other solutions that are out there with their huge marketing budgets. You're up there alongside them. So make sure you use the marketplace. Now we have lots of different sections here. I'm going to go through a few of these in detail later in the presentation. So I'm just going to mention a few, highlight a couple of things here that I won't be going into more later. IoT solutions. There's a lot of activity right now. Think about the internet. The real fundamental change the internet gave us was the ability to connect directly to our customers. This is the thing that made Netflix work, because we could see exactly how much of each show you watched, and we could see exactly what bandwidth you were watching it at, and whether what the quality of service you had. We're able to tune and optimize the service continuously in real time and see what customers were doing. The TV stations always said, I'm going to put this show on at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday night and hope I can figure out who watched it. Maybe I can ask a market research agency how much I can charge for the adverts. That's about it. And then they read the reviews from the press. It's a very indirect way of figuring out what your customers like. But when you're directly connected to customers, you know what's happening. You have the feedback loop. This is why even companies like BMW are now becoming more like Netflix. Why is BMW like Netflix? Well, the latest cars they have are continuously connected to BMW. Car as a service, Carasso they call it, which connects through an AWS interface, an AWS set of services, hosted set of services, so that BMW know how you're driving your car. They can give you updates. They know where the traffic jams are. They know where the roadworks are, and they're updating your maps continuously. That's the new world. And what you had to build out a system that's capable of doing this instead of seeing a car once a year when it comes in for maintenance. That is one of the ways that we see over and over again new business opportunities. Look for an existing business where the customers are separated from the service or the product, the company. Directly connect them. This is where IoT comes in. You're connecting your products directly back in, or it's where you can connect directly in as a service. So that is a major shift and lots of opportunities for startups in that area. There's obviously mobile here as well. We're getting mobile first applications. You see that over and over again. You see something that's based off of a desktop kind of environment. When somebody builds a mobile first version of it, it becomes the winner. This is kind of why WhatsApp took over from Skype. Skype never figured out the mobile first aspect. It was WhatsApp that figured that out. So let's just go in a bit more detail here and look at a few more services. We have deep functionality in these services. We don't just have compute. We have more instance types than any of the other providers. And I'll go into those in a bit more detail. We have more database options than other providers. Lots of different capabilities there. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. When we look at security and access control, we go deep. There are lots of compliance regulations around the world that we've already got. Some of them take a lot of effort, a lot of time to get. We're getting a really, really broad set of compliance capabilities. If you're a startup, it's really hard in your own data center space to get through this compliance. I've heard many startups say, I can't afford to get the compliance certification for our SaaS product running in our own system. We have to leverage the AWS certifications and build on top of that. And then we have things like bring your own key for security, really critical capabilities around key management, and that's the basis of getting really good securely built applications. And then networking. We have availability zones. We just added a third availability zone in Frankfurt for those of you going after the German market. That's giving us the ability to build out triple redundant applications in most of our regions. We've just rolled out broad IPv6 support across all of our capabilities. That gives you, again, new opportunities for building networking in different ways. So let's drill in a bit on compute. We have a lot of capabilities. Sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. If all you wanted to do is stand up, say a WordPress site or something simple, well, it can. You look at the AWS console, too many options there. So we set up Lightsail. It's a simple virtual private server. It has its own console. It's predictable pricing. You just set it up, you go, and it's a very easy way for you to just get started and to get onboarding simple applications with relatively unsophisticated end users. So just use that, very straightforward. We have the burstable types. This is where you need the thing to be sitting in memory, but you don't need that much CPU, or you need CPU in short bursts. So it gives us the ability to pack more and more instances and more capability into one machine, so we give you a much lower price. So that's the lowest cost option for getting instances in general. General purpose types, a balanced mixture of memory and CPU. Dense storage types for building data warehouses with huge amounts of disk capacity. Memory intensive, so we give you more gigabytes, more gigabytes per CPU. And then large memory. What do we mean by large? 2 terabytes right now. That's a pretty large instance, and this is an area where I think there's some interesting capabilities that startups can begin to take advantage of. The reason we have the X1 range is largely because SAP has a product called HANA, which is an in-memory analytics database that just loves terabytes of RAM. So we do it largely because of them. But we don't do this as a special case product that you have to sign up for specially and wait for weeks and all those kinds of things. It's just another instance type. So if you want to run a graph database that puts everything in 2 terabytes, you can do that. If you want to experiment with new architectures for databases that for the future, when we have more and more systems with enormous memory footprints, I call these tera services rather than microservices. This is a capability that you can do interesting research for, and you can get it by the hour, and you can play around with it. We recently announced we're pushing the capacity of the X1 range from 2 terabytes to 4 terabytes, and then next year, 8 and 16 terabytes of main memory in a machine. Now that breaks all kinds of things. Like it's pretty hard to just even boot Linux in 16 terabytes. We're going to have to do some work on scalability, on just initializing memory, right? This is an area where startups are going to have an interesting time. When you move from having to build a network of systems to doing stuff in memory, you get orders of magnitude improvement, many orders of magnitude improvement. So go figure out what you can do if you have many terabytes of RAM, and you'll build a product that is capable of doing things that no one has seen before. Look forward to seeing what happens in that space. Then we have high I/O. The I2 range that we had for the last few years is 300,000 IOPS against some local solid-state disk. That's pretty interesting. That's a good amount of capacity. But the i3 was an order of magnitude faster. Over 3 million IOPS per instance, which is ludicrous. I still don't know a database that can do 3 million IOPS. Again, these capabilities will underpin somebody building a new application. Some startup will take advantage of these capabilities and build something that's never been seen before that will disrupt the industry. These are the kinds of things that we give you by the hour to play with, to experiment, to go find out what you could do. Then we have compute intensive, the C5. This is we take the latest Intel processor, we run it at the highest clock rate we possibly can, and give you the highest CPU power we can get on an instance type. The G2, graphics intensive, give you a GPU integrated into the instance. And then the P2, we take 8 high-end NVIDIA GPU boards, each of which has 2 chips on it, and I think 40,000 cores and 70 teraflops. I mean, a teraflop used to be a room this big full of compute, and now 70 teraflops is just one instance type you can get by the hour. Again, this is HPC and high-performance computing backend, and also for doing training on deep learning environments. Incredibly powerful machine. 600 gigabytes of RAM in this box as well. And then we get to the FPGAs, the F1 instance. Now, I know there's a long history in Israel of chip design. So some of you may be chip designers. Some of you maybe used to be chip designers. You probably know somebody who's a chip designer. That's not necessarily true in all the audiences I run into in my summit. So I'm going to spend a few slides just explaining what's going on here. Field programmable gate arrays. Basically, you can design your own custom chip, and the entire development environment is now on AWS, and you can provision that into AWS as a custom silicon design. You have a sea of gates, you can connect them up any way you want, and you can do anything you want with them. You can build your own accelerators. So we've been able to do that for a while, but it's hard to get FPGA development environments. It's hard to provision them, and it's just a pain in the neck to deploy them. It's custom. What we've done is build this into an instance so everybody can get to it. And this is now GA as of a month or so ago. You develop and debug your code. You figure out how to build it as a machine image. And then this is the critical thing. Remember that marketplace I was telling you about? You put your FPGA-based accelerated image in the marketplace. And then you can charge, anyone in the world that wants to use your accelerated hardware can just download it as an image from the marketplace. Now, it may take more than 30 seconds to start the instance because we have to reprogram the hardware a little bit, so the boot time's a bit longer. But you basically can provision accelerated hardware designs to anyone in the world now. Really interesting. So, what are people doing with this? Genomics research, big area, financial analytics, real-time video processing. This is becoming really critical. There's a massive amount of video being generated at the edge now. And it's not just being streamed from Netflix to the desktop or to the laptop or the TV. It's being generated and collected and processed. Somebody built an accelerated video processing system using the F1 instance, and it's 30 times faster than doing it in software. If you can deliver a 30x speed up, that is incredible value. Again, this opens up a whole new market. It's disruptive. Figure out how to use this to do something disruptive in this space. And then search and analytics. You can build your own custom deep learning engine with this if you want to. So we have a number of customers that are achieving supersonic speed that are leveraging AWS to go incredibly fast. But I want to bring up a local customer now. I want to bring up Jill Scheinfeld from Fiverr to tell you about what they're doing and how they're leveraging AWS.
בוקר טוב, אני גיל מפייבר. כיף להיות פה. נתחיל בסרט קצר על פייבר.
Got an idea? Isn't that cute? My little sister has ideas. You have a business to build.
סמן, נגמר.
So get a logo, make a website, market it, promote the out of it. Cancel the brainstorm. The only one who can do this is you, and your power to get it done. So I can pitch it to your mom, pitch it to your ex, pitch it to your roommate, pitch it to anyone who will listen. But definitely don't pitch it to these guys. Woo the customer, schmooze the customer. Oh, and this guy? Just ignore him. Beat the gurus, beat the trust fund kids, beat the tech bros. Nice scooter, yo. Change the business, change the industry, change everything. And while you're at it, save the rhinos. Above all, and this is important, do. Because thinking big is still just thinking.
שוק העבודה המסורתי משתנה. ב-2020, 43% משוק העבודה האמריקאי הולכים להיות פרילנסרים. זה שוק של $1 טריליון בארצות הברית ו3 עד 5 worldwide. רק 3% מהפרילנסרים נמצאים כעת אונליין. זה היכן שאי-קומרס היה ב-1995. תחשבו על אמזון ב-1995. זאת ההזדמנות. פייבר היא זירת המסחר הגדולה בעולם לשירותי פרילנס דיגיטליים. פייבר מאפשרת לעסקים ויזמים לרכוש מגוון גדול של שירותים דיגיטליים בקליק. אקספיריאנס מלא של אי-קומרס. פועלים ב-196 מדינות, מעל 150 קטגוריות. בפייבר שירותים דיגיטליים נמכרים במוצר. אנחנו קוראים לזה Service as a Product. יצרנו disruption למודל הישן. לא שוק כוח אדם, אלא ביצוע עסקאות בין אנשים במודל של e-commerce. תפגשו 2 מהדואריות שלנו. שרמן עבדה בקורפרייט, הצטרפה לפייבר ב-2011. התחילה לכתוב קורות חיים ב$5. היום הזמנה הממוצעת שלה זה $800. האישה האמריקאית הראשונה שעשתה יותר מ$1 מיליון בפייבר. עם הכנסה שנה שעברה ב-2016 כמעט $450,000. קינדל ריזו עד לפני 2 הייתה מלצרית בפלורידה. מדי פעם היא עשתה פרילנס בכתיבה. היא הצטרפה לפייבר והתחילה לכתוב תוכניות קראודפנדינג. שנה שעברה הרוויחה מעל $100,000 ועשתה את האיירון מן הראשון שלה. בואו נעבור קצת על מספרים. עד היום הושלמו בפייבר מעל 30 מיליון פרויקטים. מעל 1,000 גיגים נמכרים כל שעה ו20 מיליון ביקורים ו25 מיליון דפים נצפים ביום. יש לנו 130 מיליון איבנטים שהמערכות שלנו אוספות כל יום. ארגנו את החברה בהתאמה לסוגי הלקוחות שלנו וה-Customer Journey באתר של פייבר. ארכיטקטורת הפלטפורמה תואמת לארגון, כך שיש לנו התאמה בין העסק לבין הארגון לבין הארכיטקטורה. מבנה זה מאפשר לנו סקייל מהיר גם של הפלטפורמה וגם של העסק. וכמו כן, מיוצר ארכיטקטורה מורכבת עם הרבה שירותים והרבה רכיבים. בואו נדבר קצת על הארכיטקטורה שלנו. יש לנו מיקרו-סרוויסים בלתי תלויים, שכל אחד משרת פונקציונליות מוגדרת, ללא התניה במיקרו-סרוויסים אחרים. מימשנו תבנית שנקראת CQRS, Command Query Responsibility Segregation, שזה אומר הפרדה של הקריאות מהכתיבות. הקריאות סינכרוניות, הכתיבות אסינכרוניות. משפר את ביצועי האפליקציה. הפרדנו את שכבת הפרונט-אנד משכבת הבק-אנד למייקרו-סרוויסים נפרדים, שמאפשר לנו דלבור מהיר של פרונט-אנד ובק-אנד בלי תלויות. כמו כן, בחרנו Data Independence על ידי שימוש ב-Event Sourcing, מה שמאפשר לכל צוות עצמאות. Microservices, CQRS, הפרדה של פרונט-אנד ובק-אנד ו-Event Sourcing מאפשר לצוותים שלנו לעבוד באופן עצמאי, לדלבר פיצ'רים במהירות מרובה ולבחור כל אחד את הטכנולוגיות שלו. על גבי הספק, תשתית הקודם שלנו, חווינו בעיות רבות. בעיות יציבות וביצועים אשר פגעו בחוויית המשתמש בפייבר. רצינו אוטומציה יותר טובה ושירותים מנוהלים, כדי שנאיץ את סבבי הפיתוח שלנו ונוכל להתרכז בתחומי הליבה. היינו מוכנים לשלם יותר עבור ביצועים. ב-2016 החלטנו לעבור ל-AWS. המעבר ל-AWS תוכנן במשך 6 חודשים. החלטנו לעבור עם הארכיטקטורה שלנו כמו שהיא, ולא להוסיף את הסיבוכיות של שינוי ארכיטקטורה תוך כדי המעבר. החלטנו לעבוד בשני Availability Zone בשביל יתירות במספר Security Group. העברת הדאטה בשוק חי ופעיל היה האזור המורכב ביותר. באמצע דצמבר 2016, בוקר אחד, הגענו למשרד, מוקדם בבוקר, ו6 שעות אחרי זה, פייבר עבדה על AWS. האימפקט שהשגנו היה משמעותי, ביצועי האפליקציה השתפרו ב-30%. זמן הדאונטיים של פייבר ירד ב-80%. הורדנו את מחיר המשתמש על ידי מעבר לשירותים מנוהלים כמו RDS וקינזיס, וכמו כן שימוש בספוט אינסטנסיס. המעבר לאמזון מאפשר לנו להתרכז בצמיחה בתחומי הליבה שלנו, ולא להתמקד בבעיות תשתית. פייבר צומחת מהר. אנחנו מגייסים טלנט, אנחנו עושים שיתופי פעולה עם סטארט-אפים. אני מזמין אתכם להצטרף לתנועת הדוורס. תודה.
Thank you very much. Well, there's some great examples there of how to build a microservices architecture that's really state-of-the-art. I think this is becoming an interesting area. And what I'm going to talk about next is another superpower. Power of invisibility. We want you to be able to forget about certain things. You can think about cloud as making data centers invisible. You don't really need to know where they are or anything about the buildings, right? But let's look at going in a bit deeper. Let's start with looking at microservices. Why are people interested in microservices? We want to break things up so that we can scale things independently. We want to deploy things independently. We want independent security and permissions. Think about a monolithic application, and one corner of that application has some critical data in it, say some credit card processing. Anytime you touch that application, the whole thing has to be dealt with at the level of criticality to deal with PCI compliance and things like that. If you break the application up and make just one small piece of it deal with credit cards, and most of the application is dealing with the user experience, that makes it much easier to iterate and go much faster and deal with any issues that you get. You can basically segregate your system, maybe even run it in a different account, run it in a different security domain, a different set of deployment criteria for your most critical pieces of your application, which hopefully change slowly and you're very careful with. And you can iterate and go incredibly fast on the rest of your application where you want to experiment and get out of the way of the developers. That's really the key thing, and that's why microservices have become important. That's why back in 2009, 2010, when I was at Netflix, we went from a monolithic architecture to a microservices architecture. It was just getting too difficult to jam together all these disparate pieces into one monolithic application. So, when you do this split up, you take a monolithic application, you take it into services, you take it into microservices. You've now got many more things to deploy, and getting our arms around how to do that has been one of the interesting areas over the last few years. We've seen containers come up and become really the default way that people manage their microservices and break things into small chunks. But when you're running containers today, there's a lot of challenges. Cluster management, scaling, the fault tolerance, and securing your environment. And there's a lot of work required on top of, I've got my containers, it's fairly easy to build, the developer builds the containers, but if you're trying to operate large numbers of them in a highly secure manner in production, there's a lot of work needed. So we built the EC2 container service really to give you a platform for running containers at scale in production. It's always from the beginning been oriented around solving that particular problem. And it not only gives you container management and a container registry, it gives you the ability to manage an underlying pool of AWS instances very easily, and then it gives you access to EBS, to block storage. It gives you access to the network. It gives you IAM roles per container and network interfaces per container. This is really relatively hard to do, and it's something that other container platforms don't do. And they don't integrate well into the AWS capabilities. So if you're using roles to control who's allowed to do what, to download just the keys that this service is supposed to have so that it can access just the services that it's supposed to be able to talk to, those roles need to go down to an individual container. It's no good just having them at the instance level so that all the containers on that instance share the same sets of permissions. So very detailed, fine-grained control is important here. So that's the integration with IAM. And then we have other things here like batch integration. If you're running long-running processes and you want to chain your batch jobs together, we have AWS Batch, which is a higher-level service that runs on top of ECS. It makes ECS kind of invisible underneath, but it gives you a really easy way for running your batch jobs. And the other thing with ECS, from the ground up, it's multi-zone aware. You just set up your pool of machines across multiple zones. You're not trying to federate together multiple installations of ECS. It's an integrated thing within one region. It gives you the capability to survive a zone, any issues in one zone where you can just keep running. So that's really important. And it's one of the reasons why ECS is used by some of our largest customers to run really significant installations of container deployments. So at the bottom we have the container services. We integrate on top of that CloudWatch, so you get logs automatically per container. You get your IAM roles. You've got Route 53, you can do DNS routing down to the container level. You've got secrets management, an application load balancer that can route traffic directly to individual containers, auto scaling, and step functions, which I'll talk a bit about later. On top of that, the container registry is also integrated with code build, so you can set up a complete build environment for your developers extremely quickly. We have a new service called CodeStar, and I don't have more time to talk about it today, but if you're trying to get developers to be productive really quickly, go visit CodeStar and you say, I want to develop with this language, this framework, this IDE, all of these different pieces of the systems, and it will build you a continuous delivery development pipeline that's deployable really quickly with lots of options in it. That can take you quite a while. In fact, I think one time I remember spending about 2 weeks just trying to get Eclipse configured properly on my machine when I was back at Netflix. It's just trivial to do now. So we have lots of examples of customers running on ECS. For example, Expedia runs about 3/4 of their entire application fleet on ECS. But we also want to make even the underlying servers that you're running your containers on go away. So how do we make the server itself disappear? So many of you have heard of the word serverless. So what do serverless applications look like? This is another area where I think there's an incredible amount of innovation going on. There's a lot of startup activity. So think about how you can build a new kind of business on top of the serverless platform. I think we're just at the very early stages of building some really different and interesting new applications here. There's no provisioning or management. It scales with usage. You never pay for idle time, and fault tolerance is built in. What it means is that instead of trying to optimize the workload for a fixed amount of compute, the compute expands and contracts by the second with whatever you're trying to do. If you're trying to, let's just pick an obvious example. Let's say there's a TV advert with a URL to your website in it, and you've scheduled it to be in some really sort of, after some really cool show that everyone's going to be watching. You don't know how many people are going to go visit that website. You could provision something, you could guess, you could stand it up, you could test it, And it's fairly expensive to leave a large-scale system that may be too big or it may be not big enough, you don't know. With Lambda, you just set it up as a set of Lambda functions, and when the customers turn up, it scales to exactly the right size, and as soon as they go away, it shrinks down again. It costs a tiny fraction, several orders of magnitude less to deploy these very spiky workloads. So instead of building businesses where you're trying to optimize your workloads to fit in a constant amount of capacity, what happens when you can turn that on its head and say, I can deliberately optimize my business for spiky workloads. I could build a business around people scoring goals in sports events, right? In a football match, you don't know when that's going to happen, but everyone wants to get on and talk about it. There's these things that are unpredictable spikes in traffic. You don't know how big they're going to be. There's some interesting areas here where we can go build new kinds of applications. So we have a complete platform for doing this. We have AWS Lambda underneath. We have S3 storage that you can just access and put your data in, and when there's nothing running, the data just sits there. DynamoDB, provision your databases, just again, the traffic to it. Basically, if there's no traffic to it, it costs next to nothing to keep your data there. As traffic rolls into it, it auto scales up as you go. The networking supports this, and the security models support it. On top of that, we have step functions, which gives you a way to manage everything on top. You have SNS notifications, you have queues, you have Kinesis for analytics, an API gateway that delivers things in there. And build on top of that, we're actually already starting to see some startups. We've got the serverless framework, Sparta, Apex, Loggly, Splunk, Sumo Logic. There are people building things on top of AWS Lambda and on top of the serverless platform that let you build things more easily and deploy things more quickly. But there's a whole set of services on here which I'll go through in a bit more detail. So you can run code without thinking about servers. That's what we mean by serverless. Think of, if you don't like the word serverless, just call cloud data centerless if it makes you feel better. It's integrated with 12 different services. You run your code just as API calls come in. That's it. You don't get charged. Everything's always 100% busy, and you pay only for the compute time you use. So that's, obviously, it's a very agile system. You can do new kinds of applications with it. I think what we're seeing as people build new apps on this is an extremely low cost of operation, right? For many, many workloads, we're able to reduce the cost of running the application by a huge proportion. Think about the machines you've got. If you really, measure over 24/7 how busy every machine is, it's pretty hard to keep machines busy. If you're doing really, really well on the cloud with auto-scaling, you can maybe keep everything 50 or 60% busy, but that's hard work. That's a pretty mature environment. Most of the time, you're lucky if you're more than 10 or 15% busy. Lambda's always 100% busy. So just from that, you get a benefit. The other thing that's not mentioned here became obvious to me when I was invited to be the judge at the AWS Hackathon at reInvent last year. And in 12 hours, we had teams of people. We had about 200 people in the room, and they built, in 12 hours, everyone went away, groups of 4 people went and built applications. They were all serverless. They all used Lambda. It wasn't because we told them to use Lambda. It's just if you're building something in 12 hours, it's incredible what you can build in 12 hours with Lambda. So this has become the fastest prototyping method you could possibly get for building something from new. Just go look at all of the hackathons that are out there that are running on cloud, and you'll find many, many people assembling together applications by gluing together high-level APIs and gluing them together with Lambda functions that are relatively small amounts of code and building completely new applications in next to no time. So again, if you're a startup, used to be everyone started with Ruby on Rails because you could build something in a day that would work. This is the new Ruby on Rails. It's the new scaffolding. You're gluing together APIs from across the industry and across the internet using Lambda to tie it all together. And once you're done, it isn't just the new capability is it'll now take an arbitrarily large amount of work. These 12-hour hack day projects You could just turn up the DynamoDB autoscaler and put them in production. They were ready to go. It's incredible what you can build with this, and it's incredible how quickly you can build it. It's getting to the point that the legacy migrations we're seeing from some of the enterprises, rather than just forklifting some old application into the cloud, it's actually worth going and looking at how quickly, put someone, say, a couple of days, see if you can build a new version out of Lambda. If you can't, fine, we'll forklift it. But it's worth doing the prototype to see how quickly you could replace it. It moves that needle over. So, lots of customer successes with Lambda. Let's talk about FINRA, Financial Industry Regulator. They connect to the world's markets, with the markets in the US, and they track the behavior of those markets. Well, at night the markets are shut. You don't need any capacity, so it costs nothing to process those market events with Lambda. When the markets are happening normally, there's a certain amount of traffic, but you know what the markets are like, they get excited. Bad things happen, there's some news, everyone goes crazy, and the markets do a huge spike, and you see all the markets move. If you look at the volume when those market moves happen, it's often an order of magnitude spike. You can't predict when it's happening. This is a perfect use case for Lambda, and it's something where they're running billions of requests a day through Lambda in order to process all of these market trades and always have the capacity to respond to what's happening, because they're trying to regulate, they're looking for fraud, they're looking for bad behavior, all of the different things that might be going on in the markets. And the times when the markets spike is where they need to be the fastest at seeing what's happening. They can't suddenly have a backlog of a week to catch up, right? Everything would be over. So it's a really, really interesting application for it. So we mentioned step functions a few times. There's a few good use cases for this, but basically this is a way you can graphically build out your Lambda functions and build an application that's a little more sophisticated than just having a few Lambda functions processing something. You can chain things together. It's a stateful way to chain functions together. One of the best use cases for this is actually in automating your environment. Right, most people do infrastructure automation with shell scripts, and you have a bunch of shell scripts, and you have cron jobs, and you have all these things. What if you could take your entire infrastructure automation and make it event-driven? Pretty much every service on AWS will issue events. Right, say you have an autoscaler and your machines are going up and down. Every time a machine is removed by the autoscaler, or every time an instance is, say you're using Spot instances and a machine is reclaimed by the Spot environment because somebody paid more for it, you can get an event and you can tidy up after that, so that instance going away. And you can make all that event driven. You don't have to have the code running inside. You don't have to poll systems. You don't have to keep scanning the API describe calls to try and figure out things to do. So step functions is very useful for building that kind of automation. The other thing with Lambda functions is they're ephemeral. So how do you attach a debugger to them? How do you tell what they're doing? Well, X-Ray is our solution for this. X-Ray gives you a APM capability across many of our services through ECS, through your containers. It also reaches into the services that we've built, which is something that you can't do with a third-party APM solution. Can't see what's happening inside DynamoDB or SQS. But what we've built here is the capability to instrument our own services, and including Lambda. So as Lambda functions get invoked, we can tell you the latency that they took to become invoked, how long it took to run, and the chain end-to-end of the exact Lambda functions that happened from beginning to end, from an API call all the way to, say, a DynamoDB read or write. Very powerful system. If you think of how this relates to other APM solutions, they basically use an API to pull data out of this to integrate into the APM, because most APM solutions cover a really broad range of things. We're really focused here on solving for the things that we had to solve ourselves, like monitoring Lambda and monitoring our own services. So you can use X-Ray as a standalone APM, but it's really, the real power of it is that it's got an API. You can take data out of it and you can integrate APM into whatever you're building. This is the kind of view that you'd get. There's some traffic coming in on the edge. There's some red and yellow as well as green. The reason is that you've got a DynamoDB where the throttle is set too low, so you can go and turn on auto-scaling or increase the throttle for your DynamoDB and everything will work fine. But you can tell that by tracing it through the system. This is the kind of capability we've got. We've also got a new capability in DynamoDB. We've had this for quite a while. It gives you predictable low latency in the millisecond range, but people want better latency and they want better caching, so we built a DynamoDB accelerator. This provisions instances that are RAM-based with basically the same API in front of DynamoDB, gets you down to microseconds, and quite often the additional cost of the memory is paid back by reducing the cost of the transaction. So the overall cost can be less as well as the transaction rates. So again, this is the kind of capability that lets you build applications you couldn't build before. If you can do queries in microseconds, you can do a huge amount of data access in a request. Again, new capabilities. So we have a number of customers that use the serverless environment. Thomson Reuters built a system in just a few months to process analytics for their system. So they found a really fast development environment compared to their normal cycle. So this is all new applications, right? If you're building something with serverless, it's a new architecture, you're starting from scratch, it's all new to you. And it's really useful for greenfield applications. But some of you are probably saying, yeah, but I have all this legacy stuff, and I'm stuck with dealing with all of these problems. I've got technical debt. I need capabilities to get out of that. Well, let's give you the power of flight, the ability to fly away from some of your legacy. So talk about that for a bit. One of the areas that we talk about, that we're hearing a lot about, is people are stuck in old world databases. Lots of enterprises, people that have been around for a decade or two even. And this was something that we had at Netflix as well back in 2010, 2011. We were using a really big, complex schema. It was really difficult to put everything together. It was difficult to modify. The licensing was really expensive. And every now and again, the vendor would call up and audit us and tell us, you're going to owe us a big pile more money. And it's really unpleasant. So what we're finding is customers are moving to open databases. They're moving to MySQL, Postgres, or MariaDB. And they want to migrate between on-prem and AWS, between databases. We've got this capability, database migration service. It does schema translation between things like, say, Oracle to Postgres, or SQL Server to MySQL, whatever combination you want. We're adding more and more capabilities with it. We've migrated, over 23,000 databases using this service. And it doesn't just move it once, it does continuous replication, because usually during the migration you have to bring up the new service and run side by side. So you have to copy the data there, you have to copy the data back. This is a service that AWS has built in the last few years. Back in 2011, Netflix built one of these custom itself for the specific case it had, but this is the generalization of something that we found we had to build. So where do you want to target? So let's look at Aurora. Aurora is a MySQL compatible database with really good vertical scalability and very good availability, and you just don't have to think about it anymore. And it's very low cost compared to commercial grade databases. And the fastest growing AWS service we've ever deployed. Huge amount of interest in just being able to vertically scale. Now if you're a startup, maybe you don't need to do horizontal scaling to get started. You can use Aurora to get much more vertical scalability than you could running your own MySQL. And then more recently, we've brought out a Postgres version of this, which we can use particularly because we saw people wanting to move from Oracle, and Oracle to Postgres with our database migration service is probably the cleanest transition. The SQL variants are reasonably close, and the schema translation tends to work better with that particular combination. This is available in open preview now. Lots of examples of customers using this. Netflix is actually using it for some of its stream analytics for figuring out the quality of service of the systems it's building. An Expedia is moving their lodging inventory system, the back end that records how many hotel rooms there are in every hotel in the world. That's kind of the system they have. So, next I'd like to bring up another customer, another enterprise customer, should be well known to you, HP Enterprise, and they're going to talk about how they're moving some of their software applications from on-premise to a cloud base. So, let's come up.
בוקר טוב לכולם, אני טל לוי יוסיף ואני VP R&D ב-HP Software. בימים אלה מה שקורה עם החברה שלנו זה שיחידת התוכנה של HPE עומדת להתמזג עם חברת התוכנה הבריטית מייקרו פוקוס, וביחד אנחנו בעצם יוצרים את חברת התוכנה השביעית בגודלה בעולם, עם מחזור שנתי של למעלה מ$4.5 מיליארד, 18,000 עובדים, כשבישראל נמצא ארגון Go to Market וארגון הפיתוח אחד מהגדולים והחזקים בישראל. מבחינת הפורטפוליו, אנחנו מדברים על פורטפוליו מהעשירים בתעשייה, שבעצם נותן לנו פתרונות end-to-end לעולם התוכנה המודרני, החל מ-DevOps, דרך Operation ו-Monitoring, פתרונות ל-Hybrid Cloud, Security ו-Big Data Analytics, ובעצם הפורטפוליו הזה משרת היום למעלה מ-50,000 לקוחות מהגדולים בעולם. גם אנחנו כחברה ממוקדת לקוח בעצם עושים את הטרנספורמציה שלנו לכיוון של הקלאוד ההיברידי. אנחנו עושים את הטרנספורמציה הזאת בעצם בשיתוף פעולה צמוד עם AWS על 3 אספקטים. האספקט הראשון הוא Extend. הפתרונות שלנו ירוצו על גבי AWS, כשלמערך הפתרונות הקיים גם תהיה אינטגרציה עם AWS, למשל, היכולת לבצע בדיקות עומסים עד לסקייל של מיליוני יוזרים, בעזרת האלסטיסיטי שהפלטפורמה נותנת לנו, היכולת לבדוק אפליקציה על כל device שנרצה, בעזרת האינטגרציה עם Amazon Device Farm, ואינטגרציה של כלי הניהול והגוורננס שלנו, עם כלים ב-AWS כמו Code Pipeline להשלמת פתרון הוליסטי ללקוחות שעצמם עושים את הטרנספורמציה לקלאוד. האספקט השני הוא Distribute, הפצה והנגשה של הפתרונות שלנו ב-Amazon Marketplace, בין אם בשימוש על גבי הענן או לשימוש בהורדה. והאספקט השלישי הוא Empower. אנחנו בעצם כחברה חורטים על דגלנו את המטרה לעזור ללקוחות שלנו לעבור לקלאוד ההיברידי, ואנחנו נותנים סט של פתרונות שבאמת ירוצו על כל פלטפורמה, וכמו שאמרתי, עם אינטגרציה והרחבה של הפורטפוליו עם כלים ב-AWS. בשלב הזה אני רוצה להזמין את אמיר הרמה, שהוא ה-Cloud CTO שלנו, לדבר טיפה על ההחלטות מאחורי הקלעים עם AWS.
תודה רבה טלי. אז אני קצת אדבר באמת מה הביא אותנו לבחור באמזון כפלטפורמה שאנחנו נעשה איתה את הג'רני הזה לקלאוד, ואני אדבר קצת מה הצ'אלנג'ים העיקריים לנו בתור אנטרפרייז שהביאו אותנו להסתכל על הפלטפורמה הזאת. אז בעצם הדבר הראשון שמעניין אותנו בתור אנטרפרייז זה איך אנחנו נכנסים לשווקים חדשים, למדינות חדשות. בעבר היה לנו נורא קשה להיכנס למדינות חדשות. עלות הקמה של דאטה סנטר חדש במדינה חדשה היא יחסית מאוד מאוד גבוהה. אמזון עם הפריסה הרחבה שלו ועם הצורה שהוא פרוס בצורה אחידה בכל המדינות השונות, נתן לנו את האפשרות לבוא ולהיכנס לשווקים חדשים, למדינות חדשות, ולתת פתרונות ללקוחות אנטרפרייז שרוצים in-country presence. הדבר השני שמאוד עניין אותנו באמזון זה כל השימוש ב-modernized application שלנו. האפליקציות החדשות כולם משתמשות ביכולות אלסטיסיטי, ברסטים, טסטים שרצים על פי דרישת לקוח, ונורא היה חשוב לנו לא לשמור צבא של מכונות כדי לחכות לדרישה של הלקוח להריץ טסט, ולכן המודל הזה של pay per use, שאנחנו משתמשים במכונות רק כשאנחנו צריכים אותם, בעזרת ספוטים, בעזרת מכונות ב-on demand, נתן לנו בעצם דרך לעשות את זה בצורה הרבה יותר יעילה, ולתמוך בלקוחות שלנו בצורה שהיא cost effective. הדבר הנוסף שמאוד מעניין אותנו בתור חברת אנטרפרייז, היא איך אנחנו דואגים לשרידות של המערכות. הרבה מהלקוחות אנטרפרייז שלנו מאוד אובססים לגבי שרידות המערכת, לגבי ה-availability שלה, ולכן אנחנו לוקחים את היכולות של אמזון ורצים ובעצם deployed over multiple availability zones באמזון, אם זה 2, 3 או יותר, ואנחנו דואגים שכל האפליקציות שאנחנו מרצים עבור הלקוחות שלנו באמזון ירוצו מכמה availability zone בצורה שהם ייתנו מענה לשרידות מרבית וניתן ללקוחות שלנו את הפתרונות שהם צריכים. והדבר האחרון, שבעצם כולנו נמדדים עליו באנטרפרייז, ה-operational cost, איך בעצם אנחנו דואגים שעלות האופרציה שלנו בענן תרד משמעותית ותוכל לתת לנו גישה יותר טובה עם התחרות בשוק. והדבר שאנחנו עושים די טוב היום באמזון, אנחנו לוקחים באמת את כל האחידות שיש היום בכל הדאטה סנטרים שלהם, את ה-API'ים השונים שאפשר בעצם להשתמש בהם, ואנחנו משתמשים בכל היכולות האלה בצורה פרוגרמטית כזאת, שאפשר להרים היום את כל הדברים האלה בצורה אוטומטית, להשתמש בקוד של טרפורם או מה שזה לא יהיה, כדי להרים את המכונות שלנו, לנהל אותם ולעשות להם אופרציה. כל הדברים האלה ביחד באמת נתנו לנו מענה מאוד יפה באמזון, והובילו אותנו להשתמש בפלטפורמה הזאת כדי לעשות את המייגריישן שלנו לקלאוד. רציתי לדבר כמה דקות על בעצם הארכיטקטורה שלנו בקלאוד. אז כשאנחנו מסתכלים על הארכיטקטורה שלנו בקלאוד, מה שניסינו לבנות היא בעצם סביבה תומכת לקבוצות ה-R&D שלנו. קבוצות ה-R&D שלנו באות ומנסות להתפקס בפיתוח של המוצרים, ומה שאנחנו באנו ועשינו, יצרנו עבורם איזשהו טריין כזה, שנותן להם אפשרות להתפקס ולפתח את המוצרים שלהם. יצרנו שכבות או פריימוורק מסביב לאפליקיישן שנותנים להם יכולות סקיוריטי ונותנים להם access שהוא enterprise level access, ובעצם הם משכפלים את המעבדות שיהיו בדיוק כמו בפרודקשן, ככה שבעצם אנחנו מגיעים למצב שהאפליקציות עצמם מפוקסות מאוד בפיתוח של האפליקציה, מקבלים שירותים אחידים גם עבור המעבדות, גם עבור סביבות הפרודקשן בצורה זהה, ואפשר לייצר אפליקציות ולהעביר אפליקציות מסביבות הטסטינג לסביבות פרודקשן בצורה הרבה יותר מהירה, ובצורה שעוזרת לנו לשחרר רליסים ופיצ'רים בצורה הרבה יותר טובה מאשר היו קודם. זהו, תודה רבה לכולם, תודה על הזמן.
Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is analytics. We're going to give you the superpower of X-ray vision to figure out what's going on in your systems and in your customer bases. So we've taken petabyte scale analytics and made it available to customers of any size, from the smallest startup to the largest enterprises. Interactive query services, Hadoop, Spark, Presto, and Redshift. So I'm going to go through these in a bit more detail. Athena is kind of a serverless analytics service for ad hoc data. You just have S3 buckets full of data, you can query them. Now to make it really efficient, it turns out that the Parquet format is a really good format for storing your data. So if you're putting data into S3 buckets you think you might want to query later, take a look at the Parquet format. It gives us a nice speed up for when you want to analyze it. But we can also query data that's been compressed and encrypted. So you should put data in compressed, encrypted Parquet format, fill up your S3 buckets with it. You can query that directly with Athena. You give it the query, you give it the security key to unlock the data in the query. Incredibly powerful, very secure, and able to get really quick results from very large amounts of data. EMR. Well, Back in the day, I've heard, we were playing around with Hadoop in 2008 at Netflix, and in 2009 we decided it was a pain in the neck to build Hadoop clusters, and we started using EMR. And since then, I've always been puzzled by people saying it's annoying and difficult to install Hadoop, because it's an API call and a cluster appears. It's always been like that with EMR. It isn't just Hadoop though, there's a lot more capabilities that have become part of the Hadoop ecosystem, so Presto, Spark, and HBase. And you can code your applications on this. This is, there's a lot of people doing this and a lot of capability. Redshift, though, is for more curated queries. When you know the data, you know the query you're going to perform, you can optimize the way you store the data to support that query. So for those repeated queries, the stuff you take to run a business, sales reports, things like that, it doesn't make sense to do that with ad hoc queries because you can get something like a 20 times speed up and do it much more efficiently by storing it in a data warehouse. So that's what Redshift is, and again, it's one of our fastest growing applications. And customers love Redshift. We've had a huge installed base of people pushing us to add more and more features to this. But customers are putting their current data in Redshift, and then they're storing the history of everything they've done in S3. You don't want to store everything. You can put many petabytes of data in Redshift, but people are actually building up huge stores of data, exabytes of data in S3. And to solve for that problem, we've recently come out with a new service called Redshift Spectrum. It runs queries directly on the exabytes of data that are in S3 alongside your Redshift data. It combines the two together. So in some ways, it's a little bit like Athena combined into Redshift with more of the performance of a Redshift query. So it blends the two. What does this look like? You have a query engine, you have your Redshift data, maybe those are all of your tables that describe your current data set, and then you've got a table containing a data lake, which is all of the historical data. And every now and again you want to combine the two. We support all of the standard formats that you have out there. So we ran a benchmark on this. We wanted to run this query. 4 tables, 1 on S3, 3 local in Redshift, 8 filters, 3 joins, 4 group by, order by, limit, 2 function, 2 cuts. This is a pretty complex data warehouse query against an exabyte data set. Now, some of you may not realize how big an exabyte is. It's 1 billion gigabytes, or 1 million terabytes, which is a lot, right? And I'm just impressed that we actually created an exabyte of data just to do the test, right? The fact that you can create an exabyte in S3 just to run a test is itself impressive. Apparently took a little while to get all the data there. But we have lots and lots of exabytes of capacity in S3. That's one reason it just seems infinite for any normal use case. So we did that. We ran a 1,000-node Hadoop cluster against that query, and we figured out it was going to take 5 years to finish. Okay, let's see how fast we can do that with Redshift. 155 seconds, which is just mind-blowing. You can just query an exabyte. And under the hood, thousands of machines appeared, data was sucked out, things happened. It's all magic. You just say, please tell me what happened. So this is one of the most impressive benchmarks. I love benchmarking. The ability to do benchmarks like this in the cloud is just staggering. It's a wonderful system. Anyway, we have customers already using Redshift Spectrum. It was only announced fairly recently, so it's a new service, but incredible capabilities. Again, think what can you do if you can query ridiculously large amounts of data in ways that you couldn't do before. That's going to open up new applications. So next I want to bring up AppsFlyer, Redshift Man, the CTO and co-founder, to talk about mobile analytics.
שלום לכולם, אני רשף, ובאתי לספר לכם על AppsFlyer. לא הייתם רוצים לנהל את תיק ההשקעות שלכם בצורה כזאת, נכון? ככה זה יותר טוב. אז זה מה שאנחנו עושים ב-AppsFlyer. אנחנו נותנים ללקוחות שלנו, שהם מפרסמים של אפליקציות מובייל, כלים לניהול תיק ההשקעות שלהם בפרסום. מה זה אומר? אנחנו נותנים להם להבין מאיפה היוזרים היותר טובים שלהם מגיעים. יוזרים יותר טובים, הכוונה ליוזרים שמשתמשים באפליקציה יותר ושמוצאים יותר כסף באפליקציה. למה? כדי שהם יוכלו להביא עוד יוזרים כאלה. מאחורי אתם יכולים לראות חלק מהלקוחות שלנו. מדובר בלקוחות גלובליים שמפוזרים בכל העולם ועובדים בכל העולם. מהסיבה הזאת, גם הנוכחות הגלובלית שלנו תואמת את זה, ויש לנו נכון להיום 12 משרדים, 270 עובדים, שרובם מתעסקים ב-Customer Services. מרכז הפיתוח וה-Headquarters נמצאים בארץ, עובדה שאנחנו מתגאים בה. נכון להיום אנחנו ממוצבים כמרקט לידר בשוק הזה של Attribution ו-Marketing Analytics, עם סדר גודל של 65% מהשוק. הגידול הזה בנתח השוק גם בא לידי ביטוי בפעילות שלנו במערכת. נכון להיום אנחנו מטפלים ב-18 מיליארד איבנטים ביום. זה יוצא מעל 0.5 טריליון איבנטים בחודש. עוד כמה מטריקות שמראות את הגידול שעברנו נמצאות כאן. הנפח שאנחנו מחזיקים ב-S3, מספר המכונות שלנו ב-AWS, והטראפיק שאנחנו מוציאים החוצה. שיהיה קצת יותר ברור, אלה הפקטורים של הגדילה. כדי לתמוך בגידול כזה, הארכיטקטורה שלנו בנויה בצורה כזאת. יש לנו העדפה מאוד חזקה לפלואים אסינכרוניים של דאטה בתוך המערכת. זאת אומרת, כל האיבנטים שמגיעים ממיליארדי הדווייסים שנמצאים בחוץ, שה-SDK שלנו מוטמע בהם, מגיעים לשכבה של Web Engineering. ה-Web Engineering האלה יושבים מאחורי Elastic Load Balancer באמזון, ועושים את העבודה המינימלית שנדרשת מהם, ושמים את ההודעה על קפקא. קפקא משמש כצינור המרכזי שלנו להעברת הודעות במערכת. משם, כל אחד מהסרוויסים שלנו יכול לבחור איזה הודעות מעניינות אותו, לקחת את ההודעות אליו, ולעשות את העבודה שלו. עבודה כמו לשלוח פוסטבקים לפרטנרים שלנו, או כמו להריץ ג'ובים של ביג דאטה על הקלאסטרים שלנו של ספארק, או להעלות קאונטרים בשביל להניע את הדשבורדים הריל טיימיים שלנו. ומכאן עולה שאלה, איך לתמוך בגידול כזה ועדיין לשמור את המחיר תחת שליטה, את העלות האופרטיבית של הסרברים. בתור איזושהי אנקדוטה הצלחתי למצוא את החשבונית הראשונה שקיבלנו מאמזון בשנת 2012. זה היה $155. המחיר הזה השתנה מאז. אז איך אנחנו שומרים את המחיר תחת שליטה? הפתרון שהגענו אליו היה לבנות תמהיל נכון של המכונות שלנו ב-AWS. נכון להיום אנחנו מחזיקים 2,300 מכונות באמזון. זה סדר גודל, המספר הזה יכול להשתנות כתוצאה מאוטוסקייל. 1,600 מהמכונות האלה הם ספוט אינסטנסס. הספוטים האלה מריצים את הקלאסטרים שלנו של הביג דאטה, הספארקים, ו-95% מהסרוויסים שלנו. בנוסף לזה יש לנו 550 מכונות של reserve instances, מה שרץ עליהם זה יותר ה-stateful services שלנו, דברים כמו database, קלאסטרים של קפקא ומערכות DevOpsיות שמנגנות על הכל. 150 הסרברים הנותרים שהם on demand, הם יותר מכונות שעולות ויורדות כתוצאה מתהליכים של אוטוסקייל במערכת. לסיכום, אם אתם מתחילים לראות את הסקייל עולה ואתם רוצים לשמור את העלויות תחת שליטה, תשתמשו בספוטים. כמו כולם, גם אנחנו מגדילים את הצוות לשמחתנו, ואם האתגרים שסיפרתי עליהם נשמעים לכם מעניינים, נשמח מאוד אם תשלחו לנו קורות חיים. תודה רבה.
Thanks. It's a great example both of really high growth rate and the kind of cost optimization I was talking about earlier, where as you grow faster, you get a little bit more sophisticated, you start using the spot market, reservations, auto-scaling, you get really high utilization, and your cost per operation drops dramatically. So we talked a bit about analytics, about looking at the data we've collected. What about precognition? We want to be able to predict the future. So let's look at machine learning and deep learning and artificial intelligence. I'm going to start by just looking at some of the things that we do at Amazon, across all of Amazon. There's obviously a huge retail component here, demand forecasting, pricing, packaging, prediction. Recommendation systems for customers. This is pretty well understood. A lot of people have been doing this for some time. We have a lot of options here. Fraud detection, another area, really important area for machine learning. And product matching, and just all of things like text, images, and visual search. Lots of applications across Amazon, and we're also finding customers using machine learning a lot. So let's look at it from an AWS point of view. Obviously the Netflix recommendation engine, something I worked on 10 years ago. Zillow generating Z estimates, figuring out what the value of a house should be based on lots and lots of learning about the capabilities around it. And Huddle, this is an interesting one for sports plays. If you run a sports team, you can gather video of the game and you can upload it to Huddle, and they upload, I think, 35 hours per minute on a Saturday afternoon at peak after every school kid and local game has been recorded, and they will analyze the plays for American football or soccer or hockey or whatever, and basically make sure that your team is playing the game, the way you want to. So it's an analytical system for coaches for ball games. So if you're a local coach for your local team, you might want to check out this service. It's an interesting use of video analysis and machine learning. But what we're trying to do here is build smarter applications. We want to be able to predict what's going to happen next. We want to be able to see things, speak about things, hear about things, and understand things. So let's go through this in turn. For predict, we have Amazon ML. It's a service that's been out for a few years. It lets you build recommendation systems, that type of thing, quite very easily. But more recently, we've come out with the deep learning AMI. So if you are playing around with deep learning right now, there's a whole pile of open source toolkits, lots of different names. You've got TensorFlow, Theano, CNTK, MXNet, Apache MXNet, and a lot more. And you need to get them in there, and they all want different versions of Python, and they have different device driver support, and there's a lot of complexity in getting all these things working. So what we've done is we have a team of people doing nothing but find the latest version of all these services, test it to make sure it's a nice stable version, get all the right versions of everything else around it, figure out how to get the device drivers and everything lined up so that you can use all your GPUs automatically and put it all in one bundle. So if you're doing anything in this space, don't waste time trying to do that yourself. It's like we've done it once for you. This is undifferentiated heavy lifting, a phrase that Werner Vogels has been using for many years. Just use this AMI. If you want more things in it, let us know if we're missing a toolkit or something that you think would be interesting. I mean, it's got all of the tools that you'd possibly want bundled into one integrated, tested space. So that's the deep learning AMI. On top of that, what we're finding is that machine learning and deep learning, the advances in software and hardware are what's really driving this forward. And as well as having this AMI in the template, it's also available as a CloudFormation template and as basically a Docker container if you want to run it elsewhere. We're making the investment in Apache MXNet. We've been helping steer this through the Apache process that's currently incubating there. And for us, it gives us several capabilities that are interesting. One is the Apache governance model where multiple companies can share and collaborate. Another is that we found that it's very scalable for a performance point of view and also scalability across multiple nodes. It's got a very efficient engine and communication mechanism. So if you're trying to scale it across to basically do a really big training model, and you wanted to finish it quickly, you don't want to just run it on one GPU or one instance full of GPUs. You might want to use 10 or 100 instances worth of GPUs on one model to train it. And if you're doing that, the cross instance communication really needs to be efficient. It's something that MXNet's very good at. It also supports a very wide range of languages. If you want to do your machine learning in Perl, it's supported, or R, or Scala, or MATLAB. These are languages which are not supported by many of the other frameworks, but it gives us a very broad set of capabilities. It obviously, one of the main use cases is around Python. There's great support for that, and C++ for getting into the back-end things. And then we have the P2 instance type I told you about earlier with just huge capacity. P2 is based on the NVIDIA GPU engines, and we had a joint announcement with them at NVIDIA's conference a few months ago, where they announced their next generation architecture for GPUs, and also announced that we are the launch partner for that. So at some point in the future, when those chips finally come out, you'll see them here first. We're going to be in it out there with volume. So, what are we trying to do in machine learning? We give it a bunch of data, we process it through there, we build an API. This is very asymmetric. You spent a lot of time training these models, but then they classify very quickly. You might spend hours, weeks, or even months training a model that can classify in milliseconds or seconds. So that's the asymmetry here. And you want to be able to pull all these things together and deploy them in the cloud, but also deploy them at the edge. And we're using Lambda as a way to deliver pre-trained models as Lambda functions in edge devices through our Greengrass IoT system. So you could actually have this in your phone, in your car, in your whatever devices, in your industrial machinery. You could build a classifier, a Lambda-based classifier, which is looking for unusual events, for example, or trying to predict what's going to happen next. So that's what's happening with prediction. Let's look at seeing things. We want to be able to see what's going on. We have a service called Recognition that makes this easy. You don't need to be an expert in deep learning to figure this out. You just say, here's a picture, what's in it? It's a city, downtown. You get all of that data back immediately. If you show it people, you get emotions. It tells you there's people in the picture, tells you what's going on, gives you an age range. This can be either, I keep taking pictures of people and seeing what it says. It can sometimes be flattering, sometimes it's not so flattering. We've also recently trained it to search for celebrities. We've pre-trained it to recognize celebrities. So you can point it at a picture and it'll say, this is a movie actress, we recognize her, those kinds of things. There's a session later on you can go to for a lot more detail on that and see how to build an application. Speaking. We want to be able to teach our computers to talk, but we don't want to just read the words as they are. It's very stilted. We need to be more intelligent about it. So you want to give it a text string which you'd normally read, but the way you speak things is different. So you take the temperature in WA is 75 F and turn that into the temperature in Washington is 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is unusual for Washington, but it's not usually that warm. But we've got 47 voices in 24 languages, so you feed it things in your language, in your format, and we've also added things like whispering voices, male and female voices. There's a lot of choices here, right? So we're gradually adding more and more capabilities to Poly. So lets you customize what's said. You can have markups on it to tell you whether you want it to be faster, slower, higher pitch, lower pitch, emphasis, whispering voices, and speech marks are in there as well. So you can really start to generate lifelike speech. And if you have fixed phrases you want to say, you can just go in, feed them into the console, save them as an MP3 file, embed them in your application. There's no cost per use. It's really just that if you use the service intensively for real time, eventually there's a low cost for this. But for just building out a bunch of voice prompts for an application, it's basically free. Worth trying out. So that was speaking. Now let's look at what happens if we try and hear what's going on and understand the context for what's happening. So to do that, we've got Amazon Lex. And if you think about the Alexa service, the Alexa product that's been out there for some time as a speech engine that you may be familiar with, just drop the A at the beginning and the end, and that's Lex. That's how to remember. This is the core of that product, available as a service that you can build into your own devices, into your own applications. So you can ask it what's the weather forecast as an audio file. It will turn that into the text representation, feed it to some Lambda functions that take the weather forecast, give you the text back, and then you can feed that back in and it will say it for you. You can basically use this to build chatbots that are text-based or voice-based, all integrated. We've even used this to build a call center application. So if you want to stand up a call center in 5 minutes with a bunch of custom prompts and Lambda functions for all the actions, it's a trivial thing. It's got Amazon Connect. Go take a look at that. You know, even the smallest startup can now have a fully featured voice-activated call center. So it's integrated into the console, multi-step conversations. You give it a bunch of example phrases and it finds things that match or are similar to those phrases, and that's basically how it works. Continually improving, and the more people use Alexa, the better this gets. That's really the key here. And we have enterprise connections. So if you wanted to have something where, you know, maybe you have a sales rep driving around and they want to know about the next customer they're going to see, you can build something that integrates into Salesforce and pulls out information about where they're going and just tells them as they're driving along, so they don't have to be trying not to poke buttons on their phone while they're driving. Lots of customers is using AI in production today. Across a large amount of industries. And this is, I think, one of the big areas of investment right now. We're seeing lots of startup activity, as well as enterprises trying to figure out how to use this. So a huge opportunity area. Take something that already exists, figure out how to add some deep learning or AI to it, and you've kind of got a new disruptive business model. We're seeing that pattern happen across many, many customers and markets. So that's AI. Last area I'm going to talk about is security. We're going to give you a force field, right? Another superpower to save you from all the bad things that are out there on the internet. We have a deep set of security-related tools. Networking, we have virtual private cloud, we have application firewalls, the web application firewall, we have all these key management services, hardware security modules, and server-side encryption. So lots of ability to do really good key management, and I think this is the most important thing. If you're architecting an application, think about key management up front and really get security right at the beginning. It's hard to add security later to an application. Identity, federation, Active Directory integration, and then lots and lots of compliance options. And for us, protecting your customers and business is the top priority for Amazon. We know we have to do that. We have to maintain your trust. And we have to build the right set of partnerships between the AWS layers and how we keep that secure, and the customer layer, the customer applications that are built on top of that. Automation is key here, and you really want to build a lot of automation because the manual steps are quite often the insecure steps. But there's one kind of threat we have. Distributed denial of service. And there's different types of attacks here at different layers, but I'll just quickly step through to the attack trends. We're seeing a lot of volumetric, a lot of state exhaustion, and some application layer attacks. And what we've been doing actually for several years, but it never really had a name before, we're calling AWS Shield for everyone. Like I say, we've been doing this for a while. You're already protected by it. You don't have to do anything, but we just figure out that there's incoming attacks and we block them and just protect you from it. But what we wanted to do for our enterprise customers is have Enterprise Shield Advanced. Not really that it's giving you more protection, but it's giving you ability to be notified about what's going on. So you get advanced notifications via CloudWatch. You get cost protection. So if somebody's sending a whole bunch of traffic and it makes your front end 10 times as busy as usual, that may make your costs go up. Well, during an attack, we zero out that cost. So that's part of this service, is that no matter how much you're attacked by a volumetric DDoS attack, we will zero out the additional cost that you're bearing to process the whatever got through. 24/7 support call, and we also include the web application firewall at no additional cost. So that's volumetric attack protection. But there's still these very specific kinds of attacks that come in. And it's important that you have great capabilities for figuring out the detailed cyber attacks that are happening. And I'd like to bring up Aviv Laufer of Cyber Reason next to give us a customer perspective on how they use AWS for this.
בוקר טוב, שמח להיות פה. ממה אנחנו מתמודדים? אנחנו בעצם כותבים תוך כדי תנועה את החוקים שבהם ארגונים מתמודדים. אנחנו מספקים פתרון ברמת האנטרפרייז לזיהוי ותגובה, EDR. זו פלטפורמה שדיפלויד על כל אחת מתחנות הקצה בארגון, ובאמצעות מנוע האנליטיקות שלנו אנחנו יודעים לזהות התקפות. אם בעולם עד היום אתה היית מזהה ומגן מפני ההתקפות שהיו, הן באמצעות חתימות או באמצעות התקפות ידועות, זה לא מספיק טוב. זה לא חוכמה להגן מפני ההתקפה שהייתה. אתה צריך להגן מפני ההתקפה שתהיה, ההתקפה שאתה עדיין לא מכיר. ובשביל זה צריך הרבה דאטה. המערכת שלנו מסוגלת להתמודד עם כמות של 8 מיליון איבנטים לשנייה. תעשו אתם את החישוב כמה זה אומר ליום, אבל זה כמויות מאוד מאוד גדולות. זה היכולת החזקה שלנו. סייבר ריזן נוסדה לפני כ5 שנים על ידי חבר'ה יוצאי יחידות הסייבר של 8200 וסוכנויות ממשלה כאלה ואחרות. יש לנו 300 עובדים, 4 משרדים ברחבי העולם. עד להיום בבוקר גייסנו $89 מיליון. היום בבוקר הכרזנו על סבב גיוס נוסף של $100 מיליון נוספים, מה שמביא את הגיוס שלנו. תודה. מה שמביא את הגיוס שלנו בסך הכל $190 מיליון. הגיוס הזה נעשה ממשקיע אחד, סופטבנק, שגם היה השקיע בסיבוב הקודם שלנו. לא מספיק לאסוף את כל המידע הזה ולנתח אותו, צריך גם להציג אותו. אנחנו עונים על שאלה אחת, שאלה מאוד פשוטה, האם אתם נמצאים תחת התקפה? ואם כן, מהי התקפה? אנחנו עונים עליה מאוד מהר, פי 5 מאשר המתחרים שלנו. על כל תחנת קצה בארגון מותקנים הסנסורים, בין אם זה שרת או תחנת קצה, Windows, Linux ומקס, אוספים כמות מאוד גדולה של דאטה, שולחים אותם לאיבוד בשרתים ומקבלים את התשובה. ה-UI שלנו מאפשר לחקור ולעשות slice and dice ברמות שונות. איזה מכונות הותקפו, מי היוזר שהיה לוגדון באותה מכונה, איך זה היה את ה-lateral movement בתוך הרשת שלך. החל מאיפה ההתקפה הגיעה ואז היא הסתיימה, ומאפשר לך בעצם לבצע מעקב שלם על ההתקפה עצמה. כי ההנחה היא שאתה תותקף, אנחנו נזהה את זה. כשמדברים על סייבר ועל סקיוריטי, דיפלוימנט בענן, זה לא הדבר הראשון שעולה בראש. רוב המוצרים, לפחות היסטוריות, היו און-פרם, ואנחנו גם כן מותקנים און-פרם, אבל הרוב המכריע של הלקוחות רץ בענן. סיבה עיקרית זה סקיוריטי, אמזון בעזרת יכולות ה-VPC שלהם, הסקיוריטי גרופס, הקומפליינס, מספק לנו את היכולת הזאת, גמישות, לעלות ולהוריד מכונות כאוות רצוננו, ואנחנו מדברים על מכונות של הארים הגדולים ביותר, דאטאבייס שלנו יושב כולו בזיכרון, זה הדרך שמאפשר לנו לקבל תשובות מאוד מהירות, וכמובן הלקוחות שלנו פזורים ברחבי העולם, אנחנו צריכים גלובל פרזנס. זה תצורה של כל לקוח מותקן על VPC נפרד, אין שום שיתוף משאבים בין הלקוחות, לא משאבי קומפיוט, לא ריסורס או כל דבר אחר, מופרדים על ידי VPC ועל ידי כל הסקיוריטי רולס. יש שירות אחד שמשותף לכולם, יש לנו ריפוזיטור מרכזי של איומים, שיושב אצלנו ב-VPC שלנו, הריפוזיטור הזה דוחף לכל אחד מהריפוזיטורים של הלקוחות את הדאטה שלו, אבל זה הדבר הכי שמשותף, כמובן שכל זה מוצפן ומאובטח, וכל המערכת היא תחת ISO 27001 קומפליינס. עוד משהו מעניין שאנחנו עושים עם אמזון, בנינו פייפליין שלם לצורכי מחקר שמבוסס על למדות. יש שירות של הקהילה שנקרא Virus Total, שבעצם הוא דאטאבייס מרכזי שנותן לך ביינרי וניתוח על malicious code. אנחנו מריצים באמצעות CloudWatch כל דקה דוגמים את הדאטאבייס הזה, במידה ויש משהו חדש מריצים למדה אחרת, שמורידה הן את הדאטה והן את התיאור שלו, נשמר ב-S3, ועל אחוז מסוים מהקבצים האלה אנחנו גם מריצים Feature Extraction, והמטריקות מדווחות בחזרה ל-CloudWatch. כלומר, יש לנו פייפליין שלם לצורכי מחקר מאוד גמיש, מאוד אמין, בעלות מאוד זניחה. Ransomware זו אותה תוכנה שמונעת ממך שימוש במשאבים של המחשב שלך, הצורה הקלאסית זה הצפנה של הדיסק של קבצים. המתקפה האחרונה, וונקראי, השביתה חלקים נכבדים ממערכת הבריאות הבריטית. המערכת שלנו חסמה את זה ללא שום צורך שינוי, כמו שהזכרתי, היא לומדת התקפות, מזהה התנהגויות ויודעת לחסום את הדברים האלה. תיקחו התקפות מסוג ה-Ransomware, תיקחו ביטקוין ותיקחו מחירה של Zero Day Exploit וקיבלתם אקוסיסטם חדש של פשע. זה רק ממחיש את העלות של הביטקוין שקשורה להתקפות. זיהינו את הצורך בהגנה מפני זה. יש כלי חינמי שהוצאנו שהוא נגזרת של המוצר האנטרפרייזי שלנו. תורידו אותו, תתקינו אותו לווינדוס, יחסום את ההתקפות האלה. עד היום הוא חסם בממוצע התקפה 1-2 ליום. נתון מעניין שגילינו 20-30% מההתקפות האמיתיות התרחשו על שרתי ווינדוס. היינו תחת התחושה שאנשים שמריצים שרתים יגלו קצת יותר אחריות בנוגע מה הם מתקינים, מסתבר שלא כך, למזלם אנחנו שם בשביל לעצור את זה. וכן, כמו כולם אנחנו מגייסים, לא מעט משרות, מגוון מאוד רחב של תפקידים מעניינים, אנחנו גדלים בקצב מטורף. המשרות שאנחנו הכי דרושות אצלנו כרגע זה מפתחי ג'אווה, 8 ומעלה של ניסיון שיודעים לבנות מערכות בסקייל שיודעות להתמודד עם עומסים וה-availability. זהו, תודה רבה.
Thank you very much. Well, great. It's a wonderful example of an Israeli company doing extremely well, raising money and taking over the world. Really critical application there. So I'm just going to wrap up now. So what do we really want if we're trying to build a company? Well, we really want immortality, right? There's a lot of companies that come and go over the years, and you just look at the top end companies from 20 years ago. Most of them have disappeared. There are very few that sustain. But what we're seeing on AWS is startups breathing new life into virtually every industry and using AWS to take them there. We're seeing enterprises taking the challenges of startups and digital transformation has become a really hot topic. They're all trying to figure out how do they cope in this new world, how do they speed themselves up, and there's a huge market for services and applications and software that enterprises are consuming as they go through that digital transformation. And we're just giving you this immensely powerful platform. We're accelerating. The bigger we get, the more we're able to invest in not just infrastructure, but with more and more high-level applications on top of that. So just to say, everyone, go and build, go have a good time. Thank you, and the next thing we have... Next up is lunch in the expo area, and the sessions will start at 1 o'clock, and pick your particular track, and have a great time. Thank you very much.